Listen, child. Have you ever heard the river whisper secrets to the hungry? Have you ever seen fire dance with the wind and birth a dream that should never have been? Then sit close. Let me tell you of the woman who built her fortune where the water sang, and how the spirits answered. Before we begin, if stories like this touch your heart, please like the video, subscribe for more, and tell us in the comments where in the world you're listening from. It means a lot to us. The sun hung low over the riverbank, fat and golden like a ripe mango, dripping its last light onto the water. The air smelled of smoked fish and crushed herbs, of earth still damp from yesterday's rain. Cicadas hummed their evening song, and somewhere beyond the tall reeds, a lone drum pulsed, slow, steady, like a heartbeat warning of something unseen. This was where Adunni built her fire. She was a woman of sharp edges and soft sorrows, her skin the deep brown of wet clay, her hands calloused from years of grinding peppers and turning skewers over flames. Her rapa, once bright as the sunrise, had faded to the color of dust. But her eyes, her eyes burned. They were the eyes of a woman who had swallowed hardship like bitter medicine and still licked her lips for more. "This place," the village women whispered, their voices hushed as if the wind might carry their words to wrong ears. "This river is not for the living to claim." But Adunni had no time for whispers. The city had chewed her up and spat her back to the village with nothing but a child at her hip and a debt heavy as a burial stone. So when the spirits of the river sighed in the night, she pretended not to hear. When the old ones warned her that no fire should burn so close to the water's edge, she laughed, a sound like cracking wood. "Hunger is a spirit louder than any ghost," she said, driving her first stake into the damp soil. By moonrise, her grill stood, a crooked skeleton of bamboo and wire. By dawn, the scent of roasting chicken curled into the village, rich and defiant. The people came, drawn like ants to honey, their coins clinking into her wooden bowl. Even the children, wide-eyed and sticky-fingered, lingered near the flames, their laughter weaving into the smoke. For a time, it was good, but the river never forgets. On the third market day, a woman came, tall, her skin gleaming like oil under moonlight, her dress sewn from the colors of the deep. No one saw her arrive. One moment, the riverbank was empty. The next, she stood there, her shadow stretching long and liquid across the sand. "You cook with fire," she said, her voice, the sound of water slipping over stones. "But do you know who owns the flame?" Adunni, her hands slick with spice and grease, did not look up. "I own my hands. That's enough." The woman smiled, a slow, dangerous thing. "We shall see." And then she was gone. Only the chickens noticed. They clucked nervously there, feathers ruffling as if a cold wind had passed. Adunni frowned but shook it off. The sun was high, the coins were flowing, and the world was too bright for shadows. But that night, as she banked the fire, the river sang a new song, and the first chicken disappeared. The morning air was thick with the scent of wood smoke and something else, something sour, like milk left too long in the sun. Adunni knelt by the empty coop, her fingers tracing the scattered feathers, white as bleached bones against the dark earth. The other chickens huddled in the far corner, their beady eyes wide with fear. "Ejo," she whispered, the word curling, into the dawn like a plea. No thief left only feathers, no beast left no tracks. Her son, Jide, tugged at her wrapper, his small face pinched with worry. "Mama, the river was singing last night." Adunni's spine stiffened. She had heard it too. Low, liquid melody that slipped under the door and coiled around her ankles like a snake. But hunger had made her stubborn. "Chickens wander," she said too sharply. "Go fetch water." Yet as Jide trotted toward the river, gourd in hand, Adunni's gaze snagged on the water's edge. There, half buried in the mud, lay a single golden bead, the kind worn by the woman in the shifting colored dress. The market was a riot of sound, haggling voices, the slap of fish against wood, the hiss of frying plantains, but Adunni moved through it like a ghost. Her usual customers called out, their hands waving over her empty grill. "Where's the chicken, Adunni? Has the city stolen your fire too?" She did not answer. Instead, she sought Baba Ifayemi, the oldest man in the village, his back bent like a question mark under the weight of his years. He sat beneath the ancient baobab, its branches heavy with the whispers of the dead. "You built where you should not," he said before she could speak, his voice dry as crumbling leaves. "The riverbank belongs to her." Adunni's fists clenched. "I built where the hungry eat. What spirit begrudges a mother her bread?" Baba Ifayemi's milky eyes gleamed. "Not all hunger is for food, child. Some hunger is for balance." He pressed a small pouch into her palm. Inside, a twist of bitter cola and a single black stone smooth as a prayer. "When she comes again, offer this, and listen well to what she asks." That night, Adunni lit no fire. The river lapped hungrily at the shore, its whispers rising to a murmur. Jide slept fitfully beside her, his breath hitching as shadows danced on the walls. Then, a knock. Not on the door. On the water, Adunni stepped, outside, the pouch burning in her grip. The moon painted the river silver, and there, waist-deep in the current, stood the woman. Her dress swirled like ink in water, her hair a cascade of living reeds. At her feet floated Adunni's missing, chicken plump and unmarked, and alive. "You took what was mine," Adunni said, her voice steadier than she felt. The woman's laughter was the sound of rain hitting a still pond. "No, little fire tender, you took what was mine." She lifted a hand, and the river surged, shaping itself into glistening figures, countless others who had tried to claim the bank. Fishermen whose nets came up empty, a palm wine tapper who vanished at dusk, a child who followed a glowing fish into the depths. "The river gives," the woman whispered, "but it always takes. You lit your fire in my kitchen. Now you must pay the cook." Adunni's throat tightened. She opened the pouch, letting the cola and stone tumble into the shallows. "I offer respect." The woman tilted her head, her eyes reflecting depths no mortal could fathom. "Respect is a beginning, but I crave a story." "A story?" "3 nights," the woman said, her voice weaving through the air like mist. "Come to the water at moon high. Bring me a tale I have never heard. If you fail..." Her gaze slid to the hut where Jide slept. The unspoken threat hung heavier than any debt. Adunni swallowed. "And if I please you?" The woman's smile showed too many teeth. "Then your fire will never go out." With that, she dissolved into the river, leaving Adunni standing knee-deep in the suddenly icy water. The chicken clutched to her chest. Its heart beat against hers, but its eyes were no longer a chicken's eyes. The village drums spoke, in hushed tones that night, their rhythm slower than a tired heartbeat. Adunni sat by her cold fire pit, sharpening her knife. Not for chicken, but for the words she would need. Words were weapons now. Words were currency. Jide watched her from the doorway, his small frame swallowed by shadows. "Mama, who tells stories? To a river?" Adunni's hands stilled. "The same fool who builds her kitchen in a spirit's house." She tried to laugh, but it came out a dry rasp. The chicken, the thing that had returned wearing her chicken's skin, clucked softly in its cage. Its eyes still held that unnatural gleam, like sunlight hitting deep water. Baba Ifayemi's warning echoed in her bones. Stories are seeds. Plant the wrong one, and it will grow thorns. Moon high. The river breathed mist onto Adunni's ankles as she waded in, the hem of her wrapper growing heavy with water. In her hands, a calabash of palm wine, an offering, though no one had taught her the rites. The night was too quiet. Even the crickets held their breath. Then, a ripple. Not from the wind. The woman emerged, her form weaving between water and air. Tonight her dress was the blue-black of storm clouds, her hair coiled with living frogs that sang a single, shrill note. "Begin," she commanded. Adunni's tongue stuck to the roof of her mouth. She had rehearsed a dozen tales, clever Anansi, patient tortoise, but now they crumbled like old clay. So she told the only story she truly knew. "Once," she began, voice rough as bark, "there was a girl who loved fire." The river stilled. The girl saw how fire made her mother's eyes glow at storytelling time, how it kept the hyenas at bay. So she stole an ember from the chief's hearth and hid it in a coconut shell. Adunni's fingers mimicked the theft, curling around invisible heat. But fire is a living thing. It grew. It hungered. By morning, half the village was ash. The water woman's nostrils flared. The elders tied the girl to a baobab tree. "Let the fire take its thief," they said. But when the flames came close, Adunni leaned forward. They bowed to her, not in respect, in recognition. She paused. You see, the fire knew its true child. Silence. Then, the woman threw back her head and screeched, a sound like gulls fighting over carrion. Adunni stumbled back, wine sloshing. Over her wrists. Had she offended? Misjudged? But no, the woman was laughing. "Clever, clever," she gasped, wiping phantom tears. "You tell me your own story wrapped in another's skin." Her grin widened. "The girl was you, yes? The fire is your hunger, and the village—" She gestured to the sleeping huts behind them. Adunni said nothing. Let the spirit think her clever. The truth was simpler. All good lies contain a seed of truth. The woman sighed, pleased. For this, a gift. She plucked a frog from her hair and pressed it into Adunni's palm. Its skin was strangely dry, its pulse a drumbeat against her lifeline. "Keep it close, it will sing when danger comes." As Adunni turned to leave, the woman added, softer, "Tomorrow's tale must cut deeper, make me bleed." Back in her hut, Adunni examined the frog under moonlight. Its golden eyes were identical to the chicken's. Jide murmured in his sleep, kicking at thin blankets. She tucked the creature into a cracked clay pot, but its song followed her into dreams. A single repeating note that sounded like a question or a warning. Outside, the river chuckled over stones, and the chicken in the cage. It watched. The frog sang at dawn, not with the chirping lightness of pond dwellers, but in a low, throbbing hum that vibrated through the clay pot and into Adunni's bones. She lifted the lid, and the creature stared up at her with those uncanny golden eyes, eyes too knowing, too patient. "Mama?" Jide's voice, but not Jide's voice. The frog had mimicked him perfectly. Adunni slammed the pot shut. Her hands shook. Across the hut, the chicken thing scratched at its cage, its beak clicking in rhythm with the hidden frog's song. That afternoon, the village women avoided Adunni's stall. They bought their smoked fish elsewhere, their eyes sliding past her like she was already a ghost. Only old Uwande dared approach, her spine bent double under a bundle of firewood. "They say you bargain with the river mother," she muttered, dropping 2 cowries onto Adunni's palm. "Foolish girl. Spirits always collect their debts." Adunni curled her fingers around the coins. What do you know of her?" Yuanda's laugh was a dry rattle. "She was human once. A cook like you. Hungry like you." She leaned in, her breath sour with age. "They say she drowned 7 children before the water made her its bride. The frog in its pot chose that moment to sing again, a wet, gurgling note that raised the hairs on Adunni's neck." Yuande's milky eyes widened. Too late for warnings now. She shuffled away, leaving Adunni with the weight of those words. And the question was tonight's story meant to save her or doom her, moon high. This time, the river greeted Adunni with a current that tugged at her knees. Greedy. The woman waited midstream, her dress tonight the murky green of rotting lilies. Dozens of tiny silver fish darted around her ankles, their scales glinting. "Like knife points, make me bleed," the river mother reminded her, licking her lips. Adunni clutched the calabash tighter. She had planned to spin a tale of betrayal, a lover's deceit perhaps, but the frog song had changed her mind, so she told a different story. "Once," she began, "there was a woman who could not weep." The river mother went very still, though her children starved, though her husband's blows fell like rain. Her eyes stayed dry as harmattan dust. The villagers whispered she had no heart. One day a passing spirit took pity, or perhaps curiosity. Adunni's voice dropped. "I will give you tears," it said, "but for each one shed, a memory must die." The water around them darkened. The woman agreed. That night she wept for her dead mother. By dawn she could not recall the woman's face. She wept for her firstborn, lost to fever. Then she could not remember the child's name. Adunni stepped deeper, the river now lapping at her waist. Soon she had cried away every sorrow and every joy. The spirit returned to find her hollow as a gourd, smiling at nothing. A pause. Then, "What happened to her?" the river mother demanded. Adunni bared her teeth. "She became you," the river roared. Water surged upward in a furious column. Drenching Adunni, swallowing her gasp, the calabash was torn from her hands, spinning away into the dark. For one terrifying moment, she felt claws, no, nails, dig into her scalp, forcing her head back. The river mother's face hovered inches from hers, her features melting between human and something older. "You dare?" Adunni spat river, water. "You asked to bleed. Some wounds never crust over." Silence. Then, a sound like breaking ice. The river mother was laughing, but her mirth dripped venom. "Oh, you are good." She released Adunni with a shove. "For that, another gift." She plucked one of the silver fish from the water and pressed it to Adunni's lips. "Swallow." Adunni recoiled, but the fish was already dissolving, its cold essence sliding down her throat. Knowledge flooded her, not words, but flavors. The salt-sour taste of regret, the iron tang of old blood, the cloying sweetness of forgotten lullabies. "Now you can taste lies," the river mother whispered. "Use it well." As Adunni stumbled back to shore, the spirit called after her, "Tomorrow's tale will be your last. Tell me the truth." Back in the hut, Adunni retched, but the fish's gift remained. Jide slept fitfully, his cheeks flushed. She pressed a hand to his forehead, burning. The frog in its pot croaked once, the chicken thing cocked its head, and outside the river murmured a lullaby in a voice eerily like Adunni's own. The fever had teeth. It gnawed at Jide's small body. Through the night, leaving him drenched in sweat, his breath coming in shallow gasps. Adunni pressed cool cloths to his brow, but the heat refused to break. The hut reeked of sickness and fear. The frog in its clay pot had not stopped singing. Its song had changed, no longer mimicking Jide's voice, but now a distorted chorus of many voices, wailing infants, grieving mothers, the last rattling breaths of dying men. Adunni's stomach twisted. She knew this sound. The river mother was calling her debts due. Dawn came, gray and suffocating. Adunni stumbled to the riverbank, her limbs heavy as wet clay. The village lay silent behind her, wrapped in mist. No morning drums, no chatter of women at the well. Even the wind held its breath. She did not wait for moon high. Enough! Her voice cracked across the water like a whip. You want my truth? Then hear it. The river did not ripple, did not stir. So Adunni stepped in, fully clothed, the water swallowing her ankles, her knees, her waist. The silver fish's gift awoke in her tongue. She could taste the lies she'd been telling herself. I knew, she spat. I knew this bank was cursed. Old Akin warned me. The missing fishermen's wives crossed themselves when I passed. Her fists clenched. But I was hungry. My child was hungry, so I pretended not to see the way the water darkened when I lit my fire. A bubble broke the surface. Then another. You want my truth? Adunni screamed it now. I would do it. Again. I would burn this whole village to feed him. I would... The river erupted. The river mother rose, not as a woman this time, but as a towering column of water and weed, her face a shifting nightmare of drowned features. When she spoke, 100 voices spilled from her mouth. Then pay! The current yanked Adunni under. Darkness. Then light. She stood in a vast, echoing space, neither water nor air. Before her, the river mother sat upon a throne of bleached bones, her true form revealed, skin bloated and peeling, hair alive with eels, her mouth stitched shut. With rivergrass, Adunni tasted the truth at once. You're trapped, she realized. The river mother's stitches strained as she smiled. All spirits are bound by something. For me, it is stories. She gestured, and the walls shimmered with visions. Countless storytellers who had stood where Adunni now stood. Some had become fish, others reeds. One screaming man was now part of the throne. 3 nights, 3 tales, the spirit crooned. Your first amused me, your second cut me. Now your third will free me. Adunni's pulse pounded in her ears. How? A trade. Your voice for your son's life. The words hung between them, foul and sweet as rotting fruit. Adunni's knees buckled. Without her voice, how would she bargain at market? How would she sing Jide to sleep? But the fish's gift whispered deeper truths. The river mother needed her. Needed a voice strong enough to break ancient chains, so Adunni did what hungry women do. She bargained. Not my voice, she said. My story. The river mother went still. Take all my yesterdays, every memory, every scar. Wipe me clean, as a newborn. Adunni bared her teeth. But leave me my tongue, and leave my son untouched. For the first time, the spirit looked uncertain. You would forget your own mother's face, your first heartbreak, the taste of your first ripe mango? Adunni thought of Jide's fevered whimpers. Yes, a beat. Then, the river mother lunged. Her fingers, long as river reeds, plunged into Adunni's mouth, down her throat, into her chest. Agony ripped through her as the spirit pulled, and the world went white. The villagers found her at dawn, face down in the shallows, alive. But when they turned her over, her eyes were empty as rain barrels. She knew no one, not her son, not her own name. Yet when Jide, now miraculously healed, pressed a roasted plantain into her hands, she ate. When he led her to the riverbank where her grill once stood, she knelt. And when the first customer asked, "How much for the chicken?" Adunni smiled. 2 cowries, she said, her voice her own. For though the river mother had taken every memory, every sorrow, every joy, she had left the hunger. And hunger, as any survivor knows, is the first teacher. Like this story? Then, feed the fire. Subscribe, comment your homeland below, and ring the bell for more tales that stir the soul. Share with someone who understands the price of a mother's love. And remember, the river always listens. Be careful what you feed it.